Hello, good morning and welcome. It is June the 10th, 2024. You're watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. I've got to get that right. Kept getting it wrong yesterday. Kept calling it the old name, but we've changed. Got to make a video about why we changed the name, but that is. I'm not late. Graham is never late, nor is he early. He arrives exactly when he means to, which is the main thing. So, right. Last week we had the monumental cock-ups of all cock-ups when poor old Rishi Sunak, Rishi Knick-Knack, decided it might be a good idea for him to leave the D-Day celebrations early. Turns out, wasn't such a good idea. But, I mean, the monumental stupidity of that. And let's just look at the whole week in review. This is a week in which Nigel Farage decided that he was going to take over Reform, make Richard Tice his gimp, and essentially try and run in Clacton, which is the most likely place that Reform might win a seat. And to be honest with you, when he said he was standing at that moment, I thought, he's not going to win in Clacton. But after Rishi Sunak's performance last week, it could happen. It could happen. And then over the weekend, and this is just the most bonkers thing that you could have possibly imagined. So he left the D-Day celebrations, commemorations, right? He left them early to do an interview with ITV, which is going to be shown this week. I mean, I hope it's a good interview. I hope they remembered to record the sound. I hope it's in focus. Seriously, he left to do an interview. And then on Saturday, he cancelled his interviews. It turns out that if you have something more important to do, you can cancel your interviews. And yesterday, he cancelled out all his engagements as well. He's supposed to be doing stuff today. I haven't seen anything yet. Maybe you can enlighten me if you've seen him getting up to something. But yeah, it's looking a bit like he's running away. It's looking like he's running away in a kind of cowardly lion kind of way. Actually, no, because the cowardly lion was actually brave. You just thought that he was a coward. This is remarkable. We've never seen anything like this, I say. But then cast your mind back to 2017. Do you remember how disastrous the campaign was for Theresa May? Now, she was very lucky in a way that at the time, the whole Brexit debate was raging and Labour was led by somebody else who wasn't as popular. He did all right in the election, but not enough to win the election, even though said parties claimed afterwards that it was clear who really won. And I was like, yes, Theresa May and the DUP. But that campaign that she ran in April, May of 2017, it was an absolute disaster. And to be fair, right, the 2019 campaign led by Boris Johnson was a freaking disaster as well. And look, he hid in the fridge. He refused to do an interview with Andrew Marr. Not Andrew Marr, the politics guy, what's his name? The Spectator. Andrew something. I've forgotten his name. Probably a good thing. He hid in the fridge. Like, his campaign was awful. But they had other factors going in their favour, you know? Like the then leader of the Labour Party. I'm not going to harp on a point, but wasn't very popular. However, what Starmer has done with Labour has made them, I mean, they're not whiz-bang exciting. I'm not like, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. There's going to be blue skies. There's going to be, bluebirds over the White Cliffs of Dover. No, I don't think any of that. But I do think that we will actually have some competent people in charge. And I think the country is crying out for that right now. So, yeah, combined with a competent opposition and an opposition that's gone out of its way to attract Tory voters. And I keep saying this line, but it's so true. The right look for converts, the left look for traitors. And it is why up to this point, the left has been so fragmented. If you think about it, in England, you're split between three parties, the Progressive Vote, the Lib Dems, Labour and the Greens. In Scotland, you've got the SNP into the mix. In Wales, you've got Plaid Cymru into the mix. The Tories haven't had that, except for UKIP sort of biting at the heels. but not in any meaningful way that actually takes away a large chunk of their possible electorate. When they panicked about the European elections in I think it was 2014, was it, when we had those European elections and the Tories panicked and they went, "Oh no, we got to address Brexit. We got to leave the EU. That's the most important thing." Even though a couple of years before that, no one cared. No, nobody cared. Imagine going back 14 years ago, resetting the clock back to square one when nobody cared about what bathroom trans people used and the EU. It was a thing that, happened and it was fine. There was no problem with it. And then suddenly the media, the dickheads in charge of this country decide, we need a big distraction. Why do they need a big distraction, everyone? Say it with me. Because the economy hasn't grown in 17 years. 17 years. No growth at all. When Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak say, we've had amazing growth in the last couple of months. Yeah, it's gone up a little bit from what it was, but it's so far down, it doesn't really matter now. We're so far behind. We have jammed our gearbox into first gear while doing 150 miles an hour down the M6. And all the other economies of the world have sprinted ahead. Brexit and the Tory party combined have cost this country so far over $2 trillion. Trillion with a T. That's a million. That's how much they've cost. The national debt is insane. We are spending billions just servicing the interest on the debt. Brilliant. What a great system. Massively in debt. Anyway, right, I'm going to just jump into the chat now and say hello to everyone. We've got One Angry Pagan in the chat. Oh, got David Faulkner watching over in Hong Kong. Hello, David Faulkner. How you doing? Have a super chat. 15 Hong Kong dollars. Watching from steamy 31 degrees Hong Kong. I was literally wearing my big coat yesterday. I was wearing my big winter duffel coat yesterday. That's how cold it is here at the moment in the UK. Subscribe to join the chat. That's correct. That's from Reagan Elise. If you do want to join the chat, please subscribe. You wait 30 seconds and you can join it. Shin said, morning all, that how we fixed Britain thing yesterday was pretty good. It was good, wasn't it? We had Liz Webster, who is the founder of Save British Farming, and we were talking about farming. We were talking about food security and what needs to be done in the future to ensure that food security. And it was interesting going into some of the things that, as a farmer, you've got to do. But, people don't really think about the ins and outs of farming. And Liz recommended watching Clarkson's Farm. I don't particularly like Jeremy Clarkson, but I have heard a lot of good things about it. I've watched the first couple of episodes. I thought it was quite good in just showing how difficult farming is. Because people just go, farmers, they're all Tories, they're all Brexiteers. You don't have to listen to them. But the reality is that this election, you're going to see farmers vote for the Labour Party like never before. You're talking about a group of people who, just a few years ago, were 80% Tory, right? 80% of them were saying they were going to vote Tory when asked, right? That's gone down to 35% in just a few years. That's how badly the Tories have messed up. That's why Rishi Sunak is in hiding. Has he come out today? Is someone with their finger on the pulse? Let me know. Let me know if he's out. Is he doing interviews? Is he appearing? Is he doing a stunt? Is he doing a Davey style stunt? Inquiring minds want to know. What else have we got here? Bom dia. That's from Prendo. Thank you very much for that. Is that Portuguese? Bom dia. Lucy Willis. In the words of Python's upper class twist of the year skit, he doesn't know when he's beaten. He doesn't know when he's winning. He's got no mental apparatus known to man. Brilliant. 40 degrees and pissing down here, says Johan. Borrowed in. What's that? Someone's borrowing someone's line. The once was a jolly captain. Good morning, all. Anyone got a walk-in fridge I can borrow? Asking for a friend. That's from Jeff True. We've got Rob Reed Jones. That Richard Holden interview really pissed me off. This interview is about Emily Thornby. No, it isn't. You're being a coward. Honestly, it's the funniest interview you're likely to ever see this side of the election. I mean, it is just absolutely bonkers because the interviewer says, this is a pooled clip. We've been asked to ask these questions. This is the question. And 3 times he says, you've been parachuted in from Northwest Durham, where he was our MP up here. Well, not my MP, but nearby. And that constituency is now defunct. It has disappeared with the redrawing of the constituency boundaries. And as a result, he decided to go 300 miles south to Basildon and Billericay, or Ballericay, or something like that. Anyway, which I still think is a fictional place, like Brigadoon, or Balamory. Anyway, he went down it, and there was a short list of one that he was on. And it was like given to the Tory like group in that area, the constituency people in that area, like minutes before the deadline. It was just like, here's your shortlist, and it was just Richard Holden. And so the interviewer wants to ask Richard Holden about this, as you would, and he keeps asking him. So what's this? It's not very democratic, is it? You just be parachuted in here on a shortlist of one. And it's as though Richard Holden thinks that he's been asked a question about Emily Thornberry putting tax on private schools, which I have to tell you, and can we say this loud and proud, 93% of us do not give one flying F-bomb about, okay? We do not care about rich people having to pay a little bit more money to send little Timothy and little Guinevere off to the school where they will end up, as a result of going to that school, possibly being abused, but that's another story, but almost definitely getting a job where they get paid more than £100,000 a year. So they're going to get the money back. You could double the cost of the school fees. They'll still get their money back. Maybe take out a loan. Maybe give up the avocado sandwiches. Hey, have you thought of that? Maybe cancel Netflix, rich people. Maybe, I don't know, we live in a society where we don't have any private schools, and then it won't matter. You just go to the normal state school like everybody else, and do you know what would really help our local comp here in Durham? Having a millionaire on the PTA, or having a millionaire on the Board of Governors. That would help. Cheers. Not that any millionaire are on PTAs in these comps around the country, because they all send their kids to private school. Anyway, so Richard Holden, he's just like replying to this question that he wasn't asked, going on about Emily Thornberry. And it's like, it's just bizarre. It's like surreal. It's like that. Do you remember that Two Ronnie sketch where he had to answer the question before the one that was asked? It's quite funny. It's like Mastermind. And he was asked these questions. Ronnie Barker was asking the questions, and Ronnie Corbett was in the black chair. And so he's giving the wrong answers to everything, but it's the answers to the question that was asked before. It's very clever, but that's what it was like. It was like, you're not literally three times. And then Richard Holden's aide or whatever said, right, that's it, we're cutting the interview now. It's just like the optics of this Tory campaign so far couldn't be worse. I mean, for us, it couldn't be better, because they are just digging their own grave. At the moment, I don't think that Keir Starmer and that need to do anything. Labour could just take a holiday for the next 3 weeks. Have a holiday, lads. There you go, have a holiday. It's all good. Don't you worry. Don't you worry your pretty little heads. It's yeah. I keep saying it's painful, because it really is painful. But yeah, I'm just looking to go over to the papers in a moment, which I will do. But before I do that, I'm going to just do this, and then do that, and then do this, because I realised that I've made a nice little 24 days to the election. I made that and then forgot to put it up there. Isn't that terrible? Oh well, it's there now. Happy days. Also, I've made this thing at the side that says Politics Social. I'm quite proud of that. That took ages to do that. You can't see the whole thing, but it used to say Labour Social. Now it says Politics Social, because we changed the name of the channel. Right, back into the chat. Countdown to power. Morning, Graham and everyone, says Marza Jeddah Burnside. Hello. Europe in turmoil. Scary times ahead. Friends in Southeast France, a Madagascan teacher last night told me racism is endemic. Okay, let's talk a little bit now about the EU elections that took place over the weekend. So, a bit of a worry that the far right did so well. However, bear this in mind, the actual composition of the European Union, it hasn't changed, and it won't change, thank God. It's pretty much the same. It's been centre-right for a long time. It still is centre-right. The extremists haven't got like a majority, and it is the European Parliament, and therefore it's not really the kind of place where if the far right get a foothold, they can take over the whole thing. It just doesn't really work like that. So that's a little bit of something to, it's not copium. It's not copium. It is bad. The situation is bad. However, we've had the Belgian Prime Minister resign as a result of the the polls, the election results, but also the president of France has called a general election. Now, this isn't an election for president, so he's going to stay president. He feels like he is calling the bluff of the far-right people who voted in this election, because don't forget, only the turnout, I don't know what it was in France, but generally around the EU, it's about 50%. So it's the people who care passionately who have been voting. Whereas this election for the parliament in France, hopefully will bring out a few more people who actually want the future of France to be a nice, happy, caring, peaceful one, and not the warmongering nonsense that the far right wants. I can't believe that the AfD, the alternative for Deutschland, the idea that that there's an alternative to, I think they're an alternative to democracy. That's what the D stands for, democracy, not Deutschland. Hey, let's have fascism back because it worked so well last time. It's not as concerning as, say, for instance, when the far right get a foothold in Italian politics. That's national politics, and they can really do a lot more damage there. But the whole rise is concerning. Why is it happening? Why are people turning to the right? Because of Putin. Because Putin is doing this, he's playing a game with you, with your continent, which I don't think that Russia deserves to be part of anymore. It's only part of it because Peter the Great decided he was going to redraw the boundaries of Russia. It used to end at Ukraine. That's why it was called Ukraine. It meant like the borderlands, kind of. It was like, that was the end of Europe. Bye. Everything else to the east is Asia. Hello. Have a nice time in Asia, you Asian people. I don't want to get all, nativist here and geographical, but we are being attacked by this superpower, Russia, which is the biggest country in the world. Russia has attacked not just Ukraine, but has propped up the al-Assad regime in Syria. It is causing trouble in Libya and the ongoing civil war there, which nobody talks about. It's helping prop up Iran, which in turn is propping up Hamas, which is causing a lot of the misery in the Middle East in terms of Israel-Palestine. And then you've got about 24 countries in Africa where Wagner, or whatever they're calling themselves now, are pissing about, interfering in local affairs. There's a civil war going on in Burkina Faso that no one knows about at the moment, but it's basically fueled by the Russians, by Vladimir Putin. Now, what does all this instability lead to? You've got it, refugees. Oh, Yemen as well. Yemen, where the Houthi population are being propped up by Iran, again, who are also being propped up by Russia. See, all roads lead back to Putin, because he knows, and I know, and you know, that the more instability there is, the more refugees there are. And also, Putin is a big proponent of climate change, because he knows that the more climate change there is, the more usable land there will be in Russia, so his land will actually grow, because a lot of it is unusable for most of the year because it's under permafrost, okay? So I can't really use that for anything. He doesn't have a warm water port if he loses Kaliningrad and Sevastopol. Could happen. But the idea that he doesn't want global warming, he does. He doesn't want war, he totally does. He wants as much war and carnage as possible, because global warming and instability, political instability, political coups, all that kind of stuff, purges, cause refugees. And where are the refugees going to go? If you are a refugee from Congo, you are not going to go to Rwanda, because Democratic Republic of Congo, because the people who are attacking people in Congo at the moment are from Rwanda. Great. I'm not going there. Where else can I go? So they said, look, we've got to make a better life for ourselves. We're not wanted in any of the neighbouring countries in Africa. There's no kind of refugee scheme really set up there. People go to the neighbouring countries, but they're put in camps. They're not made to feel welcome. It's a difficult life. I can understand entirely why people would risk their lives to cross the Mediterranean to get into Europe. And Putin is counting on this. Putin knows this. Putin wants as many refugees to come into Europe as possible, because that fuels the far right, who say, oh, look at all these foreigners coming here. We don't want all these foreigners coming here, bloody foreigners. And that drives people into the arms of Marine Le Pen and Nigel Farage and all those horrible little fascist bastards like Tommy Ten Names. They're like, oh yeah, this is great. Look what we got. We got all these people here coming from Africa. That's good for us, because it means that we can be massively racist And dog whistle. They said, oh, there's too many people coming here. Oh, okay. From anywhere in particular? Well, everywhere. Well, most of them seem to be coming from the Middle East and Africa. Is that where you've got a problem? Yeah, no. There's just generally people coming here. Okay. Didn't have much of a problem with the Ukrainian refugees coming here, did they? I wonder why they didn't. They weren't so upset about them coming over. They were allowed safe routes. Safe routes, my friend. Safe routes. Just like at, you've got a good barber. Right, Ivan. Thank you very much, Ivan. I tried to get you on the Discord last night. I sent you a message on Patreon. So I'm going to have a look at that. Let's try and get you on there. Let's get you on there together. Oh, sorry. Made that disappear. That was the wrong button to press. I wanted that button to make Super Chat come up. Thank you, Ivan, for the £5 Super Chat. Putin is evil towards his own people too, particularly LGBT Russians. Yes. He has camps set up in Chechnya where they literally are. The idea is that people are reprogrammed. They're cured of their gayness in the camps. And if they refuse to be cured, then horrible things happen to them. That's Putin's way. And Putin has got his fingers in so many pies. It is horrific. It is absolutely horrific to think that the world stands on a precipice because of the ego and the machinations of two men, Trump and Putin, two cheeks of the same arse. And if there was some kind of shadowy global elite, the Illuminati, the World Trade Order, whatever it's called, the One World Order, whatever they call, whatever the conspiracy theorists call, if they did exist, why would they let Putin and Trump get away with this? I met a guy in South Africa, in Johannesburg. I was in a bar waiting for a friend of mine. This was 2009, so 15 years ago. And we got chatting, and I said, where are you from? He said Zimbabwe. And I said, well, where are you really from? No, he just said, where are you from? He said, Zimbabwe. And I said, are you working here? What are you doing? He said, I'm actually a refugee. I've come to, get away from Mugabe, who at the time was terrorizing people who he didn't like. This is a guy who instigated a scheme called the Drive Out the Trash scheme, which was to basically obliterate the homeless who lived in Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe. And any political opponents were jailed or worse. And he said to me, I remember saying, I'm just waiting for Mugabe to die so I can go home and go back to my family. And I thought, bloody hell, this guy's life has been turned upside down. He's miles away now from his wife, his kids, his family, his mum and dad. It's 1,000 miles from them. Why? Because of one man. It's the power of one man. And it's always a man, isn't it? That kind of power is just wrong on every level. How can Trump cause us so much brain ache? Do you know what I mean? So much stress that this guy who's a bloody idiot who stood on a platform in Las Vegas in 41-degree heat this week, stood there and said, with his little invisible accordion, he said, I don't care about you, I just care about your vote. He said it. Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much. Holden is so useless, even worse than Phil. He is. Thank you very, very much for the super chat there, Johnny. Also, Captain Bart Roberts. Rishi was last seen in a walled garden organising an escape committee. I like that. That's from Captain Bart Roberts. A little throwback to Great Escape, I think. And Ivan Ambrose. I've read that one. Thank you very much, Ivan, again. That's really kind of you. And also, Tim Ballard has joined the Super Chat gang with £10. Looks like Reform have picked Richard Faris Vishnik for South Bristol. He lives in Gibraltar and was in the Panama Papers. Search in the Supreme Court of Gibraltar, 2005 bankruptcy 001. Yeah, well, Reform are an arm of both the richest people in the country and KGB. Johan is telling me that I missed two super chats. Yeah, time. You mortals think of time as being so linear. Tell the Stranglers that Jane Lockwood. What? Tell the Stranglers that. What? Golden Brown. Did they sing Golden Brown? Breaking Douglas Ross is to resign as leader of the Scottish Conservatives. Oh my God, the wheels are coming off the boat. Yeah, that's gone for. I haven't seen that. Oh yeah, breaking: Douglas Ross to resign as leader of the Scottish Conservatives. Ooh, he will carry on his role until after the election. He will also resign as MSP if he is re-elected to Westminster. So what? Hang on, what? What? It comes after he faced allegations that he used Westminster expenses to travel in his role as a football linesman. Cheeky bugger. You cheeky bugger. It's funny how some of them get away with it, though, innit? And some of them don't. Right, okay. 24 days to the election. Let's have a look at what the papers say. Like we care. Do we care? No, I don't think we care. But there you go. We're going to see it anyway. We've got the Daily Express here. This is about Michael Mosley, who died last week on holiday in Greece. It's an awful story. Apparently he just collapsed. It might have been the heat. I don't know. It's awful. And this is a guy who was, shot to fame as someone who was teaching people dietary advice and stuff. And yeah, it's very sad. Mystic Veg, bet England to win. Okay. We've got Macron troused in right-wing EU surge. I bet they're having little parties in the Daily Tory graph, which is just a right-wing horrific rag. Tories must embrace Farage, says Braverman. Now, the idea, I'm sorry, I know you've probably just had your breakfast, but the idea of Braverman embrace, oh my God, it's just, it's quite grotesque, the very idea of that happening, of that being a thing that happens, that they embrace. I mean, just Suella Braverman. Does anyone want to think about that? I don't think so. Just realised that the little animated strip down the side is still saying Labour Social. Let me correct that for you. There you go. Now it says Politics Social. It's got more pink. Right. Back to the chat. Oh, we've got another super chat. How come the PIP reform articles keep coming out? I don't know. Chaos Law Plug. Listen, look. Thank you very much for the super chat. As far as I'm aware, right, everything that the Tories were trying to do up until they dissolve Parliament is now lost. It's gone. It's gone forever. Like, if they do it again, they will have to start again for white paper stage and go through all the committee stages, go through the votes and everything. It has to be all being done again from scratch. I mean, I suppose they can copy and paste stuff if Labour really want to, but I don't think they will. Now, look, I think that in some ways that we need to think about how benefits are given out. I'm a big proponent of UBI in the future, because I don't see the point of spending more money checking on whether carers are getting enough, are taking £2 more than they should each week. I don't care about that. And then you spend millions trying to suss out if they are or not. And it's a big waste of money. I would rather that it's simple. Everyone gets £10,000 or £12,000 a year. That's your universal basic income. And as soon as you start working, you pay tax. So work becomes optional. But here's the thing. I was watching one of my favorite TikTokers, Jason Parg, and he used to go under the name of David Wong. He wrote This Book Is Full of Spiders and John Dies at the End, which is also a movie. And he does these little TikTok videos where he'll pick something interesting to talk about. And he was talking about how we should basically. I've forgotten what I was talking about there. Hang on, let me just drink my tea. Let me just drink my brain juice. I was going on a thread there, and then I kind of lost what my thread was. But it was something to do with changing the graphics here. Oh, I realised that my camera is just showing a little bit of the edge of the green screen. Oh, that's not good. It's not very professional, is it? I just spat out. I got spat out of the stream. Sorry about that. I don't know why that happened. That's awful. Right, anyway, I'll come back to that point in a moment when I remember what it was. Tories must embrace Farage. Just a disgusting idea there. Dr. Michael Mosley died. He very nearly made it. He was just 50 yards from safety. That makes it even worse. My brilliant husband, Michael, so very nearly made it. That's the cover of the Mail as well. The Mail has been remarkable during this election period. Has completely ignored the election, almost as though it's gone really bad for their mates in the Tory party. Labour yet to convince voters on key policy areas, poll shows. There you go. And also Taylor Swift is coming to Liverpool this week. I'm so jealous. If anyone can get me a ticket, if anyone can get me and my stepdaughter a ticket for Taylor Swift, get in touch. I can't pay 500 quid for it though. Face value, we could do that just about. We've been saving all year. Macron calls snap election after surge of the far right, and there's a story about Michael Mosley there. Gantz quit emergency war cabinet in Israel. It's another Israeli minister who's quit over the ongoing horror show in the Middle East, in Palestine. Grief for kind, brilliant husband there. And Labour throws out proposal to bring back a lifetime cap on tax-free pensions. Well, there you go. Okay. PIP reform. Sorry, we were talking about UBI, weren't we? And we were talking about how, that was it. So basically, if we had UBI, you'd have £12,000 a year, say, give or take. And then if you need more than that because you have a disability or you're a carer or something like that, then you get more. But to be honest with you, if you're getting 12 grand a year as a carer, that will probably do. It's a lot more than carers' allowances at the moment. And then that would allow you to care for people in your family. You wouldn't have to put them in a home. You could do that job, and most people could. And what I was talking about Jason Pargan is he pointed out something about how whenever we thought about the future in the 50s and 60s, we always had a robot maid who did all the housework while we did the fun stuff, like we did the creative stuff. And actually, the way technology's gone, it's gone the other way. The technology is now doing the creative stuff for us using AI, and we're left doing the dishes. And he made a really good point of like how complex it is to do laundry, for instance. And there's no robot on earth that can possibly do the laundry and pick up each article, know what it needs to be done with it, see if it's got a stain on it, put it all in there, take it all out, fold it up. There's no robot that can do that yet. And it's doubtful that there ever will be one that can do it. And it's remarkable that we look at that and we go, that's not work. That's not work. Well, here's some news. If you work in a hotel, in the laundry, that's work. You get paid for it. You get paid for doing the exact same job that you do at home. Whether you're doing the dishes or looking after your kids, if you do it for someone else, you look after someone else's kids, that's a job. But if you do it for your own kids, it's not a job. We've got to flip the way we think with that. And also with landlords. Like, let's stop the idea of landlords. It's a terrible idea. You have custodians of your property and you pay them the same amount that you would pay a security guard to mind your property. So imagine this, right? You've got a property and nobody lives there, right? But you don't want squatters turning up. So you pay someone, a security guard, to be there all night to make sure no one breaks into your property and steals all the stuff that's inside it. Yeah? If you're a landlord, you not only don't have to pay that person, they pay you. And there was some crotch nugget who called up LBC last week and he was complaining, as they often do, about the VAT on private schools. Like, I just can't give a single toss about this, and I'm loving the way it's winding up the elites, the real elites, not me. I'm not metropolitan elite. I am middle class. I'm not going to pretend to be some horny-handed son of the soil. Horny-handed? That sounds wrong. I completely get that. But they were complaining about paying VAT on private schools, and he said, I have a property that I was given, and I rent it out to someone, and I use that money to pay for my children's education. And obviously, now that they're going to be bringing in VAT, I'm going to have to either put my rent up or maybe take my kids out of private education and put them in state education. And I was like, give a fuck. You literally have a property that was given to you by someone who carked it. And then you're using the person who is working in the house. You are using the money that they make through working 8 hours a day, the fingers to the bone. You are taking that money off them and giving it to a private school so your kid can get a better job in a few years' time. And he thought that this was a good thing. It's like his morality was so skewed. It's like, yep, this is normal. We've got to just put our hands up, right? And just say, stop, right? This is not normal. And we need to get that through to people. We really do. It's Tinkinator. Thank you so much for the £10 super chat there. Woo! A few years ago, I was naive enough to think that Douglas Ross was one of the more sensible Conservatives, like Ben Wallace and Mark Harper. Turns out they're all despicable slime. Tories gonna Tory. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Betty on the Jetsons was a robotic wonder. Do you know when I was talking about that, I was thinking about Betty from the Jetsons, but it doesn't exist. And I don't think it can. I do not think that it can exist. I just don't think it can. I think it's something for fiction. We've got Jane saying to Gallifreyan, put on a bed of sliced onion and carrots. Oh, we got recipes coming in. If technology is going to do more work for us there, why are we working and pouring there? Farmer Gwyn, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely spot on the money. Now, what the world is crying out for, right, is not more people to do the dishes. It's more people to create things, content. It could be music, it could be art, it could be movies, it could be short films, content. And at the moment, 93% of us are shut out from making that content because we don't have the right connections. I don't have the right connections. I'm getting there. I'm now followed by Carol Vorderman on Twitter, which I'm absolutely made up about. And she shared my Private School Mafia website the other day. But both Carol and I, we're both state school kids. Like, we didn't go to private school. And you've got to be really lucky or incredibly talented. And, you know, I'm kind of lucky. I'm kind of talented. Maybe not that talented, but like, it's quite difficult unless you know the right people. And the painful thing is, if the Private School Mafia was just filled with people who were very good at what they do, like Amano Iannucci and Benedict Cumberbatch and Rick Mail, who we lost 10 years ago yesterday, R.I.P., if it was just them, I'd be like, well, you know, they were talented. Okay, they are talented. I give them the due, right? But there's so many people on that list who are just incompetent, just useless on every conceivable level. And it's those people. It is those people. Super Tansky is my biggest follower, says Countdown to Power. That's awesome, mate. Phil says, Radio 4 News Quiz said, here, an idea. Don't send your kids to private school. You're 16K better off. Problem solved. Brilliant. Love it. Love it. I love you. I love everyone in the chat. Thank you very much for sticking with us through on Rebrand. I need to change the background. I will be changing the background soon. Get out this bloody warehouse. Go away, warehouse. I've got better places to be. It's just a green screen. It's not really there, look. And Gallifreyan Man says, what, 10 years already? Yikes. Bit shit. If you haven't seen it already, I really do recommend yesterday's both the Labour Vision, which is going to be one of the last Labour Visions, I think, before the manifesto comes out. I think the manifesto might come out this week. Me and Phil are going to do a Labour manifesto special, so look out for that when it comes out. But also, we did a really good episode. I felt it was a really good episode of How We Fix Britain with Liz Webster from Save British Farming, and it's good. It's a really good discussion, and she knows her stuff. She does know her stuff. Jane says, all they learn is supreme confidence and the art of talking down and delegation. Yeah. Delegation is a good skill to learn, though. It really is. But one of the issues that I have is I've been self-employed. I've been a freelancer since 2001. Okay, so it's a good 23 years. Worked for myself. I've done contract work for Lonely Planet, National Geographic. I've done contract work for the BBC, Universal. And I've carved out a little bit of a niche here on YouTube. It wasn't the niche that I wanted originally. No offense to you. I'm talking about what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about travel, but obviously COVID put paid to that and other issues. So yeah, now we're moving up forward with politics, and we've got to keep this channel going. I will say though that in after the election, things are going to change on this channel. Obviously, that we won't be doing Labour Vision anymore. And we'll be doing some different shows. And we also want to launch a politics social podcast, which will be fun. But yeah, that's all to play for. That's all to play for ahead. But yeah, I would have liked to have done more travel stuff. But the reality is that when you're working for yourself, you don't get any sick pay. You don't get any holiday pay. If you're feeling like shit, you can't just pull a sickie. It is difficult. It's one of the really good things about doing the Morning Brew show with Phil is that, you know, if one of us can't make it for whatever reason, we can swap days, which is it's just an absolute lifesaver. Honestly, if it wasn't for Phil Morehouse, this channel would have died a death many months ago. So big thank you to Phil if you're watching, and if you're not already subscribed to A Different Bias, please subscribe to A Different Bias. But yeah, as someone who's always worked for myself and known what I'm up against. I feel like I was a bit naive. Sorry, I know I've gone massively over time here, but never mind. I felt like I was quite naive after I finished my journey to every country in the world without flying. I thought that I would just get back and I would get a book deal. I'd get another TV series. I would have done one. I had 200 hours worth, more than that, 300 hours worth of footage for the end of my journey, which hadn't been turned into a TV show. I thought the doors would open. I really did. I was invited to give 7 TED Talks. 7 TED Talks, including one in California, like proper TED, not like a TEDx, like a proper TED Talk. And I got a standing ovation, and it just looked like everything was going really, really well. And then I just remember having this meeting down in London with a theatrical agent. And I was just like, why can't I get an agent? Why can't I get any of these book people to come on board with the idea of me writing a book and then going around the country selling it? Because, I'm a good storyteller. And he said, you just don't know the right people. And I went, well, I do. I know blah, 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 and blah, blah. He goes, no, you didn't go to school with them. I was just like, you're kidding me, aren't you? I just did this massive, crazy thing, got a Guinness World Record. I'm in Ripley's Believe It or Not. I'm in the Guinness Book of Records. Like, how can you, what? And he's like, no, sorry, try America. And I did. I got a publisher in America. It's an indie publisher, but it's not, my book isn't self-published. It is a proper publishing company. But like the fact that I couldn't get that in the UK, because of my accent, because of where I was born, even though I went to the best school in Liverpool. And I'd like to reiterate that, I don't feel like hard done by my education. I think my education was incredible. Well, teachers weren't that good, but the kids were great. So you didn't get bullied for doing well, which makes a change usually in school. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system when I got back. I honestly thought that there would be more opportunities to someone like me with my abilities. Yeah, anyone can talk into a camera, but can you walk and talk into a camera walking down the streets in Kenya, in Nairobi, holding a camera, telling people the history of Nairobi without getting worried or someone's going to come along and bang you over the head and steal your camera? That kind of thing. I could do that. I could do that. And I find it easy. I find public speaking easy. I always have done. I make no qualms about that. I feel very privileged that I can do that. But you have people in the Tory party who are completely and utterly useless. You have people running this country, running Ofcom, running Ofsted, running Ofwat, who are completely useless, running the post office, who are completely useless. And the only reason they got that job is they went to the right school. All their names are on the private school mafia list. No surprise there. Anyway, right, I've got to get a new mug that says Politics Social rather than Labour Social. I'm going to sort that out. And in the meantime, thank you so much to Savage Dragon for hanging on with me. I guess you're all eager to jump over to listen to James O'Brien. But what you can do now is you can go back to the beginning of the show with James O'Brien and then you can skip through the ads. That's what I do. Anyway, so thanks very much for watching. Phil will be back in the morning at 9:30 with another Morning Brew. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the super chats. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for, building this community that we've got together. It's really exciting. It's really cool. And I felt something the other day because I finished watching Picard season 3. Season 1 and 2, please don't watch them. They are beyond awful. Season 3 was brilliant, really good. And I watched Furiosa and it was really good. And so there were 2 things from my childhood that I really liked, Mad Max and Star Trek. And finally, I felt like I got the show that I wanted, or the film that I wanted out of those. I mean, the last Mad Max was pretty good as well, but Star Trek has been awful since 1994. Anyway, I felt a weird feeling. I was like, oh, I feel like we're winning. This is odd. Don't normally feel like our side is winning. I mean, it's been tempered slightly by the rise of the far right in the EU elections. However, it's pretty certain now that Labour are going to win this election, touch wood. Our side is finally winning. And I've forgotten what it felt like. I've forgotten what it felt like to get up in the morning and go, yes. Because for the last few years, I've been getting up in the morning going, oh God, what now? So I'm hoping that one of the big shifts that's going to take place on this channel after the election is going to become a lot more positive. It's not going to be just negative stories about Tories doing awful things. It's going to be a lot more like, okay, how do we fix Britain? What can we do? How can we make this world a better place? How can we make this country a better place? How can we make this country the best place in the world to live in? And, you've got ideas. I love it when you share those ideas with us. So yeah, Phil will be back in the morning. And until then, thank you very much for the chat. Thank you very much for the super chat. And I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.